Now, what you're going to see in your course pack is before we start drawing things with tools, because these are very high stakes sort of drawing, I don't want you wasting your time. I don't want you drawing stuff and having the stuff wrong. So it's better to kind of figure out what we want before we spend time drawing things with tools. Alright, so that's why these were included in your course pack. And here's the basic idea. This is the part we are drawing. We're cutting it open along the holes at the top. We're sectioning it in the top. And this is more or less what we're looking at as we stand down here and look in that direction up to the right. That'll be our front view. So here is the right view here, and here is the top view up here, and here is the front faces here and here. So looking at it from those orientations, when we go to make our multi-view drawing, what are we going to have down here? Right? What are we going to have down here? So let's take a look. Now you got a lot of stuff down here. I sure wouldn't want to project every single corner and every single quadrant all at once, because this will get very confusing if you do that. So it would be better maybe to go for the basic shape. So look up here. What's the basic shape of this thing? Right? Isn't it going to be a rectangle? Yeah. So why not project that part first? Why not project down and down and over and set up more or less the outline for the rectangle we're going to work with here. Alright. And now we know that we cut through 3 holes in the top. So what does that mean? Well, it means we're going to have to project down from these corners, down from these quadrants, to locate the tunnels created by these holes. I guess that's what we see here. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 solid pieces, and I see 3 holes in between them. Alright, and when you got those located, we can go back in and we can start section lining. First part's solid, right? Second part's hole. Third part's solid. Fourth part's hole. Fifth part's solid. Sixth part hole, and then here's our last part, solid. Okay. And then you're a pro, you know that tunnels get center lines, so we'll throw them on there too. And this is what we're looking for. Now that we have what we're looking for, we can bust out the tools and draw and know that what we're drawing is correct. So for our next example, we have a similar condition going on here. We have this part that's cylindrical, like a turn part, a part that might be made on a lathe. And it looks like kind of like a wedding cake, doesn't it? Three steps, 3 smaller cylinders, one on top of the other. This is kind of special. It's got a hole in it, and that hole doesn't go all the way through the part. It goes about halfway down. So what we want to be able to do is we want to know what we're going to draw when it's time to draw with tools. So again, I've set you up with a little sketch sheet here to kind of plan out what you're going to do, right? So what do we need to do? Well, have things been projected for you? Yeah, the top, this. Basically, the only thing that hasn't been projected is the hole. So you can bring the top quadrant of that hole over. But remember, it doesn't go all the way in, does it? So it's going to go in part of the way, and then at some point it's going to stop. Right? At some point it stops. How far in it stops, we'll worry about that when we're measuring things and working with our triangles and our measuring tools. Taking a look at the top here, what is solid? Right? What is solid in the top half of this half section? Well, this is hole, so the rest of this is solid, isn't it? So the rest of it will get section lining. Okay, and again, because the hole only goes in part of the way, only part of it is a void like that. Now, how about the bottom part? Do I have to do anything to the bottom part? Well, think about what this is going to look like from the outside. Wouldn't this look like 3 steps? Step, in, and step. Well, I see 3 corners here, but we're missing the step. And here's what I mean. Wouldn't there be a line right here? Yeah, there would, right? And wouldn't there be a line right here? You see there would. There's the 3 steps that make up our little piece here. So you need to show on one side, what does it look like on the outside? And on the other side, what does it look like on the inside? And because we're showing the inside with a section, we don't have hidden lines over here to show the whole. No hidden lines on section views. Alright. So now we have an idea when it's time for us to do the assignment with tools. We got a good idea of what we need, right? Because we have sketched out the problem. And what you're going to see is that I've included that exact same setup for the rest of the sections in the course pack here. One of the sections is set up here. I'll give you a couple of views of it, kind of like in a pictorial style. Front and top, and you're going to make the right side. So you can do your sketching and figuring out over here. And your instructor might want you to turn this in or show it to them before you bust out tools and start drawing and investing a lot of time and energy in this, only to have it wrong. And we'll have something similar for this drawing. I show you a couple of pictorial views, and then down here you have a location to work out the solution. And if your instructor wants to see it, they can give you feedback on it before you bust out your tools and spend an awful lot of time drawing something that might not be right. But let's do one together. Let's do drawing 6.1 together. And we have the 2 sketches that we need to do it. This is the top half, and this is the bottom half. So to do this, we're going to need to take our 6.1 and tape it down. And when it's taped down, we'll cover it with a little bit of drafting powder, and we will get to work. Alright, so I have taped down my drawing. Because I'm drawing with tools, I have used the horizontal line on the paper as the guide for me to use the tape to tape it down. I've also sprinkled a little bit of dry cleaning pad powder on top of it so that we have as few smudges as possible. And now it's time to get to work. So let's get our appropriate tools. We need a pencil that's going to make some thin light lines. I'm going to use my 4H pencil. If you have a non-photo blue, you can use that. If you don't, I guess your thinnest mechanical pencil is probably best for this. And then what you're going to do is we're going to project the shape from the top that we need to make the basic outline of that rectangle, just like we did in our sketch. Right, so have the sketch over to the side and think about what you did to create that view. And then we'll take the top of the side view, bring that over, take the bottom of the side view, bring that over, and there is our basic rough shape we're working with. Okay, and then at that point, either you get out a 0.7 mechanical pencil, or you get out a wood pencil that's extra dark, or you make sure you can make some dark, thick lines with whatever you're drawing with. And we can go in and set up the outline of this. Okay, so there is the rectangular outline, and then we know the next step is we're going to go in and we're going to pull down our quadrants on our circles to make the tunnels for these holes. And if you do all this stuff lightly enough, if you can stand 3 feet away from it and not see it, these construction lines don't have to be erased. But you know what? If they're a little dark, you need to get rid of them when everything's all done. So I'll go in now and I'll darken in the edges where those tunnels would be. Alright, that's all my object lines. And now, probably the hardest thing to do with drawing sections is add in the section lining. So I want a thin, dark line. I'm going to use my 45-degree triangle on top of my parallel bar. And starting at one side, we're going to go, and then we're going to leave a gap of about 1/10 of an inch. 1/10 of an inch is just under 1/8 of an inch. So in your brain, imagine what 1/8 is, and imagine just a little bit less. And now, here's the deal. You'll notice that I'm not measuring them. If I was going to measure them, I would go out of my mind. I mean, honestly. So the idea is to use your eye and to estimate the distance between, trying to keep the distance as regular and as equal as you possibly can. Now, if you've never used AutoCAD, I gotta tell you, you're in for a real treat when you go over into the CAD lab and you see that there is a tool that does this for you called Hatch. And it fills in areas with patterned lines like this. And instead of taking 5 minutes to hatch this and being in high anxiety the whole time that you're going to mess up and have to start over, well, it just does it for you in a second, and it's over, and it's perfect. If this is panic-inducing for you, don't feel bad. Imagine if we were doing it in ink. And really up until the advent of CAD, when things were being drawn by hand for engineering firms and architecture firms, ink was the order of the day. So you might lightly pencil things in to get it started, but you'd go back in and ink it when it was all done. And then God help you if you made a mistake after you got that inking started, because that was a lot of work. That would be out the window. Alright, so my section lining looks decent. Is it perfect? No, of course not. Is it close? Yeah, it's close enough. It's close enough. And I'm going to use the center line over here as my guide. We're making some center lines over here. You can line up the point here at the very top to find the center line, and then it's a small line, a gap, and a long line. Right, and line it up at the top. And it's a small line, a gap, and a longer line. And a small line, a gap, and a longer line. Alright, so that is our full section for this part here. Now there's a corner back here. How come there's no hidden line back there? Well, again, the whole point of a section view drawing is to eliminate confusion. And why have a million hidden lines when we don't need them? Having a section with a cutting plane typically means we're not going to show hidden lines. They'll just confuse things. Alright, so that's our top example on drawing 6.1. This time I gave you the cutting plane. Now that's not going to be the case down the bottom. Down the bottom here, you're responsible for making the cutting plane line yourself. But we have an idea what it's going to look like. It's going to go in, up, and over, and point to the left. You know, the cutting plane line is a very thick, heavy line, and we know there's an arrowhead on the end. So you're going to get to use that fancy template that up to now has been kind of useless. This guy. Yeah, you see this big, heavy arrow up here? This is a great use for this template because every time we make a cutting plane, we want to have the arrows consistent or the same. So I'll use that arrowhead and trace it when it's time to make my cutting plane line. All right, so let's get it started. My light pencil. I'll kind of plan out where I'm going to draw things. I'll start with my cutting plane. And when I get an idea what I want, we can go back in and darken stuff up. Alright, so right there, and 1, 2 with a long one, and then around the corner, and 1, 2 short with a long one, nice and thick and heavy, and then we'll go back in at the top and add that little 45 or 90 degree bend. And then bust out that fancy arrowhead, huh? So, again, the advantage of doing this is every arrow you make will always look exactly the same. That's kind of cool. Alright. So there's my cutting plane. I'm saying cut it here, cut it here. The top half will be sectioned, the bottom half will not. And of course, just like before, you've got your sketch to work off of so you know exactly what you're trying to draw. So, what are we trying to draw? We have a hole right here. It's going to go into here, and it's going to go in part of the way, not the full depth. So I'll project the top of the hole over. And then you see the note on here? The note's telling you how far to go in. So it's saying the diameter is 0.75, but the depth is 1.25. So with your regular 1/16 of an inch ruler on the scale, make that 1.25. That will represent this hole, this flat-bottomed hole. Okay, now with the top half here, there's a lot of solid material, right? That calls for section lines. So let's take care of that. 45 triangle. And honestly, you can start wherever you want. I'm going to start here, and I'll go to the right. And then when I'm done, I'll work to the left. Now when we were sketching, I didn't have a center line to show the division between sectioned and not sectioned. On this drawing there is, and if you're asking why is it different from the sketch to here, well, both methods are acceptable. You can have either a solid line there or a center line. And of course, if you've already done the CAD part of the class, well, what are you dreaming about right now? You're dreaming about the hatch tool, aren't you? Yeah, I know you are. You don't have to lie. Alright, so here's our top half. Top half is fully sectioned. Here's our top part of this half section. Alright, now the bottom part. And if you recall from our sketch, we've got to show the outside, and the outside has these steps. So if you see it on the outside, you better include it on the unsectioned part of the half section. From here to here, or from here up section, from here down not sectioned. Half section. Pay attention on the assignments. Some of them are full sections, some of them are half sections, and some of them are offset sections. Also pay attention to whether or not you need to provide a cutting plane line.